Hello, good evening. And tonight, we're going to have a great show. But I want to dedicate the show to a good friend of mine, David Shockley and the Shockley family. They lost their little nephew in a fire last week on Market Street. He was named Tony Shockley. Tony used to always try to hang around with me and David and always wanted to be a part of us. And again, Ethel's his mother. I'd like to send my condolences to you and the Shockley family. Again, Tony, we remember him always wanting to hang out with us, and he didn't like being called David's nephew because he was 6'4", he was just as tall as David, but he's always wanted to be with us. And again, if anybody knows Ethel and the Shockley family, give her a call, go by and see her, but everybody, put her in your prayers. You know, put the Shockley family in your prayers, you know, again. And I just want to say again, and I'll be around to come see you. And my condolences to the Shockley family and everybody. Again, pray for the Shockley family in this troubling time right now. Tonight, also tonight, we will have a good show. We're going to have the Attorney General, Matt Denn. We're going to have the Chief of Police, Bobby Cummings. And we're going to have Coley, who's an activist out here who's doing great things. But before I go to the guests, I want to say a couple things. One of the things I want to talk about real quickly is some state employees. And what I mean by that is at the Porter Center, my mother worked for Catholic Social Service for years, and she always serviced people. She treated people with respect. And there's a young lady, but I'm not going to call her name though, but who has mistreated some people who come for service. And it's not right, and people need help. They don't need you to put your foot on their neck. But thank God for a young lady named Miss Copeland. Miss Copeland, a young sister who got involved, helped out to rectify the situation. And I just it gives me hope to see that we still have good people out there who's working for the state and, you know, at people's troubling times. So Miss Copeland, hats off to you and keep doing a good job. And I want to say just again, congratulations. And before I go to the guests, like I said, again, my name is Joey Cephas. I'm president of Local 1694-1. And you read some things about the port in the newspaper. We're almost close to getting our contract signed. Things are going good at the port. We have some bumps that we feel as though we can get fixed. I've talked to the governor, and once this thing gets resolved, he will come on television. There's some things that we would like to help him out with. He has agreed to have a ping pong tournament with the city against the state. He has agreed we're going to donate the money to charity. So the governor, I want you to keep your word. And again, we will get this stuff resolved because it's bigger than all of us. And I believe we can get it resolved. I've been talking to the governor, and I believe we can get this stuff resolved. But right now, tonight's show is basically how do we tackle crime? And I believe we got three great panel, and I'm gonna ask them to introduce themselves, and I'll start with you.
I'm Matt Denn, the State Attorney General.
I'm Bobby Cummings, Chief of Police for the City of Wilmington.
My name is Coley Harris, youth advocate, community activist.
And Attorney General Matt, and we go way back, and so I got to watch myself and say Attorney General, but I know Matt for a long, long time. Give us a little background on you first. Where'd you grow up? Just give me a little background, quickly background about yourself.
Quick background, Delaware native, born and raised here. We moved away when I was starting high school because my dad got a job out in California. So we went out with him, and I've been back here since law school. Got a wife and two 10-year-old boys and a 10-year-old dog, and I live in Newark.
Okay. Now, the Chief of Police, everybody knows how I feel about this young man. I think, again, if there was a better person, he would be working for Barack Obama. And we had him and the mayor on TV last year. Just give us a quick background on you.
Again, I was raised in the city of Wilmington, went to school throughout the city, played sports in the city, worked at Acme Supermarket, became a police officer now about 30 years ago, and went to Springfield College, got my bachelor's and master's there, and again, currently Chief of Police.
Okay. Now, this also, this young man, I have nothing but the utmost respect. And normally when I see him, he's on the Congo hour. Also, his cousin, first thing, is one of my best friends, Shirley Ruffin. And, you know, love you, Shirley. Also, his uncle is former councilman Joe White. Just give me just a quick little background before we're going to get into some things.
Sure. Again, my name is Coley Harris. I currently work as a director of community and special programs for a organization within the state of Delaware. It's actually a national human services organization. I'm native Wilmingtonian, been here all my life. I went through public schools in Wilmington and still live here with my family and my children.
Okay. Again, when you get a chance and do this young man's background, it's off the chain, especially for men, because I think majority of the problems that we're having in our community, it's around fathers, missing fathers, and nobody wants to talk about it. But you know, I think we're going to have some answers tonight. Before I ask a question, before we get really into it, Attorney General, I did not know you went to Yale and Berkeley.
Right, Berkeley. Yeah.
Berkeley. See, I can't even say it. I didn't know you were that smart, man.
Well, like I said, we left when I was starting high school, so I was out of state for a while. But then I started coming back here summers during law school. I started out my first summer working for Bishop Weeks' church, doing volunteer work there back when he was over at 29th and Van Buren. And then my second summer during law school, I came back and I expanded it to about 5 churches, and I was working with Reverend Herring and Reverend Leith, who was then the minister at Bethel AME, still Bishop Weeks, and a couple of other churches and a couple in Dover as well. And then after I graduated from law school, came back for good.
Okay. Now, we're going to start getting into some questions. What is the role of Attorney General? What is your role? What does Attorney General mean?
Well, if you just look at the statute books, there's a lot of stuff in there. You're responsible for prosecuting all crime in the state. Delaware is one of only 2 or 3 states in the country that doesn't have district attorneys. So we're one of the only states where the Attorney General is actually responsible for all criminal prosecutions in the state. You represent all state agencies. So, you know, the Department of Health and Social Services, Department of Labor, right on down the list. You represent all of them. You represent the state in child neglect, child dependency cases. There's really a pretty broad spectrum of things that where you either represent the state or you're acting on behalf of the state in terms of criminal cases. And then also, I think at least, have a responsibility to take on a leadership role in some areas, including criminal justice. So there are some areas where things aren't necessarily our legal responsibility, but we still try to bring people together, different levels of government, different law enforcement agencies, and try to make things happen.
Okay. Chief Cummings, what's the role of the Chief of Police in Wilmington?
Well, primary responsibility is towards public safety, making sure that we have a city that is viable, has the ability to grow, and in terms of public safety, making sure that we work with our different partners in law enforcement and outside of law enforcement so that we accomplish those kind of missions.
Okay. Now, when you was with Governor Minner, you were the chief counsel person.
For her first 2 years, I was her chief legal counsel.
What did you do for her? Because I worked, like I said, I was the community liaison for the governor at the time. What did you do?
Well, when you're the governor's legal counsel, you're basically the governor's lawyer. So you're responsible for giving the governor advice about drafting bills, whether or not to sign bills, all the legal issues that come through the office in terms of litigation that might be going on. But essentially, you're the governor's attorney.
Okay. Now, Chief.
Yes.
When you was here last year with Mayor Williams.
Yes.
You added some new things on. You have a homicide unit. You have community policing. You had a strategist, whatever. Talk about that. Where you at now and where you're going.
Well, some of the initiatives that we have right now, obviously involve the Attorney General's office. We're working closely with the Department of Justice on the federal level with our partners to try to bring initiatives to the city. Again, that will make us more effective. One of the things that we're also involved in is through the Department of Justice, we have a number of individuals who are coming in, looking at our police department to determine if we're being effective with the resources that we have and where we can do some things a little bit different in terms of technology and some other aspects of policing.
Okay. Now, again, first thing, let me just say this. I'm very happy and proud that to see the government, to see everybody's involved. And what I mean by that, the Attorney General, the Governor, the senators, the state reps. And the reason why I say that, because for a while, for years, it seemed like Wilmington was just forgotten. Like, I know Mayor Williams, when he ran, part of his campaign promises was to get the federal government and get everybody involved. And what I'm proud about is this, and I'm glad that you are taking on this role, is because I pay federal taxes, I pay state taxes, I pay county taxes. And I don't think should be just a Wilmington's problem. I think we should have resources from everybody, because everybody's in our pockets taking money out. And I'm glad to see, Attorney General Matt, that you are involved in taking the leadership and doing that. So I'm glad to see everybody's coming together, because I think I know we have the talented people, but to get everybody to work together has been the issue.
Yes.
One of the things that Attorney General, one of the things that you've done is some of your legislation has been the best gun background legislation, and getting grants for prisoners coming out. You got funding for prisoners, the transition. Can you talk about that?
Well, we're trying on the transition. The gun bill I think you're talking about was a couple of years ago. We worked the governor's office, and I was lieutenant governor at the time. The city police department and most of our law enforcement agencies were involved in getting rid of a lot of loopholes in our gun background check law. It wasn't that effective at the time, because you could get around it so easily. So we now have in Delaware one of the best background check laws in the country. It's still not perfect, because we're a small state, and you can still go to not too far from here and go to a state that has loopholes, but we can only control what we can control. The reentry issue that you're talking about is a very important issue. We have about 2/3 of the inmates that get released from our correctional institutions within 3 years are back inside again. And that's because they've committed crimes that are serious enough that they get reincarcerated. And if you have 2/3 of the folks coming out going back in again that quickly, you're never really going to get over the long-term violent crime to where you want it to be. And so we know from looking at other parts of the country that have made a better investment in reentry programs, and we even know from looking at some programs, some smaller programs in Delaware, like the Way Home program, which operates down in Sussex County, that if you have a good program that's adequately funded and they don't necessarily need a lot of money, you can have a real impact on those numbers, and you can get that 66% number down substantially and have a lot fewer folks going back into prison again. So over the last 6-10 years, we haven't really invested as much as we should have in those types of programs, and it's partly just because money's been tight and the economy's been down. But we've got a proposal in front of the legislature now that's proposing to do a number of things to deal with the underlying causes of crime, but one of them is to make a pretty substantial investment over the next 3 years in community-based reentry programs.
Well, I hope, and I'm going to get to you, Coley. I hope, because I know we had somebody at the port, that this guy, again, who they wanted to violate him because he was working overtime. He was paying his fines. He was doing everything right, everything, working, paying his fines, and they was going to violate him and put him in prison. But the judge spoke up and stopped it. And again, this guy was not African American. So a lot of times it's not always us that's getting the same type of punishment. So I want people to understand that. And what do you think about far as the reentry? And I hope after we talk, and I hope that you and Attorney General and the Chief of Police, people get a chance to talk to you and help you sponsor some of the things that you're doing. But what do you think about some of the reentry and some of the things that are going on from your perspective?
Right. Well, my perspective is I'm pretty transparent and open about I am a formerly incarcerated person. I served a 14-year sentence, and I've been home for 7 years now. And there are a lot of challenges that one faces when they come out of prison. For some reason, we have this idea of it was a lot of referrals and referring people to different agencies, but that's not always a good thing. It's not a thorough enough concept. People need to be able to really have that wraparound support to get them to those next stages coming through. For me, coming home, it was a culture shock. I came home to a different world. I had a lot of challenges in front of me, illnesses in my family. I had a teenage son that I had to reconnect with, and I had to get on my feet and start being a productive member of society. So one of the things that I see that we don't do enough in Delaware is take advantage of the network of formerly incarcerated men and women who are out here, who have transitioned successfully, and some of the challenges that they face and overcome. Use those, leverage those experiences to help the next person that's coming out of prison, to really help them to get a firm grasp and get a firm footing when they come home. Because nobody really understands that challenge as a person who's been through it does. So.
Okay. And again, there's no magical one solution. I think there's multiple solutions, and I've seen your work, and I hope that people come to you and seek your advice, and you're part of the solution, which you already are now.
I try to.
Okay, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to jump right into it a little bit. Okay, the honeymoon is over. Okay, in 2014. Delaware was the most dangerous small city, according to the FBI. We had 23 homicides. And right now, it's 2015, we have 7 homicides. What are your thoughts on that? And
Me or the chief? Or?
I think both of y'all. You can start with you first.
Well, we want less violent crime and we want fewer homicides. And I'm sure the chief would say exactly the same. And we're taking a number of steps, I think, and I don't know how much detail you want to get into to try to address that, and the chief's been very involved in that. Some of them involve heightened law enforcement efforts. Some of them involve trying to get the legislature to invest some pretty substantial funds in some of the underlying causes of the violent crime. Drugs drives a significant amount of it, and we're trying to get the legislature to invest in trying to provide more drug treatment opportunities for people to try to reduce the demand side of the equation. And we're also trying to do some things in my office, and particularly with respect to what we're doing. I don't know that we have done everything that we should to deal with young people, meaning children, teenagers with guns. And we're taking some steps on our side to try to make sure that we are treating those cases properly, because we have too many teenagers walking around with guns, and when that happens, then bad things usually result. So I think everybody wants to get the number of homicides down for any number of reasons. The primary one being it's just a horrible tragedy for the people who are involved and the families who are involved. But it affects, it has a ripple effect throughout the entire state in terms of our ability to bring companies here, keep companies here, have them expand here. I mean, it impacts everyone. So I think everyone agrees that we want to get that number down.
Chief.
I'll say from my standpoint, what I'm looking at, and you talked about this year, how many homicides we had. We had 7 homicides early in the year, which is a little bit unusual. And then when you saw the nature in which they were being committed and by who they were being committed, really raised the flag that there's a major issue here, and we needed to do something different in terms of law enforcement to make sure these things don't happen. So we had to look internally in how we deployed our officers, and we put a strategy out right now that we call Operation Disrupt, that we believe we made some adjustments in it. What's been happening on the street, we're not claiming victory by any measure. And we know this is greater than just law enforcement. We have our role to play in this, but another part of that is connecting with the community, making sure that we find out what these inner issues are that causes our young kids and adults to be involved in this kind of activity. And again, that's outside of law enforcement. We know we have a lot of social issues, economic issues that need to be dealt with that will impact a lot of this, and we're looking for other alternatives to get these kids into something that will get them off the streets, get them involved in something where you can redirect a lot of their energies. So again, we have some strategies in place. We have an academy class coming out. That's not the answer to all this, but it is a part of what we need to have to make some adjustments.
Okay. Coley, I was listening to radio the other day, and one of the young ladies, she was like, well, nobody from our community will be talking to nobody up on the panel. They would talk to you. If they would talk to you, what will they be saying to you? How help the chief and help the attorney general get this fixed? What would they say to you that they wouldn't say to us?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Wilmington, Delaware, we have a serious poverty issue for young people under the age of 18 years old. So that's whenever I see situations when you have such a massive amount of young people committing violent crimes, perpetrating against themselves, and them being the perpetrators as well, I have to look at what's the root cause and why are so many young people willing to take such a high risk to being involved in gun violence. There's a lot of drug involvement in the community, but there's also a lot of petty rivalries and robberies going on amongst each other. And I trace it all back to poverty issues. I'm a firm believer that I have a basic principle is that we make funds available to be able to support young people in employment efforts and peer counseling, peer education. So we pay them to kind of work towards fixing the problem, to solving the problem. And I think that as long as we don't take an aggressive stance towards this poverty issue, then we're going to continue to have problems. The policing strategies, I understand that public safety, I want to be safe. Everybody wants to be safe. So I think, everybody understands that, but I still don't think that we've really taken an aggressive enough approach to deal with the root causes.
When you say we, who is we that you're talking about? Do you think, when you say, is it we, the parents? Is it we? Who's the we?
Well, I think it's everybody.
Okay.
I think it's everybody. I think we really, we're all in this together. And if we don't approach it that way, then we're going to be fragmented. This one working in different silos and dealing with a problem or an issue that challenges all of us. So when I say we, I'm talking about myself and everybody else. I don't see the cohesive effort in dealing with these issues in a holistic manner, as opposed to looking at specific after effects of it, to say the least.
Okay, and I know, again, I'm the president of Local 1694-1, and we have multiple presidents, and I think everybody down there is doing a good job. And one of the things that we do is mentoring. And it's funny, I'll tell you a story. I had a kid who was 19 at the time, who was 40 now. And I got him a job, and he was making a great deal of money. But he wouldn't want to do no overtime. And I'm at the Chinese place, and I'm cussing him out. Man, you got to come to work. He said, well, quit. I said, why you going to quit? He said, who's FICA? Why is FICA taking all my money? I don't want to work no more. But now this guy's 40. This guy's kids have been to college. And this is happening a lot because they're being mentored. And I listened to Chris Carter, plays football he plays football for the Vikings. And he's a commentator for ESPN. He said he was 22 years old before a man ever told him that he loved him. And it was Reggie White to put his arms around him. So that's something else I think we just need to think about. But Attorney General, I'm going to ask you a question. You got $35 million for the settlement for stock market crash. Okay, I think you're going to pay $600,000 for overtime for the police officers. Can you discuss about the monies that you got and how you're going to divide it to help this problem?
Sure. Well, there's a bunch of different settlements, and sometimes it gets confusing.
Okay.
There's so many of them. There was one last year with one bank that was because of their misconduct in the financial markets, and from that settlement, we were able to get what's I hope eventually going to be a little over $600,000. It's right now about $450,000 to help the police, the Wilmington police, with policing foot patrols in high crime areas. We're going to be paying overtime. First priority to Wilmington officers. If there aren't enough Wilmington officers, county and the state have agreed to step in. And the idea is to get 6 people out, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m., 7 nights a week in the high crime areas. And those may change, as this happens. Then if the criminal activity moves, then the neighborhoods will change as well. And Chief Cummings, with input from some other people, is going to be making the call in terms of where the officers are. Going forward, we have these 2 other settlements now, which add up to this $36 million, and we're asking the legislature, the governor and I made a proposal to the legislature to invest some of that money in a fund that would allow us to do more of these foot patrols, would allow us to improve the surveillance cameras that we have around the city. Some of them aren't working as well as we would like. Some of them could stand to be monitored more frequently, and that's a real tool that we have for law enforcement that we haven't been able to take full advantage of. But also we're proposing that a lot of it be invested in some of these issues that we've been talking about, trying to provide more teachers and paraprofessionals in our high poverty elementary schools in order to get to some of these kids when they're first starting out at school, trying to provide expanded after-school and summer programs for teenagers, to be able to have them doing productive things when it's off of school hours. The substance abuse treatment that I mentioned, the reentry programs that I mentioned, it's a real opportunity for us to kind of get at some of what we know are these underlying causes of the crime that we're seeing.
Chief, same thing, same question about how do you feel about the monies coming to you? Are you pleased with the money, and is it deployable the way you want it to be deployed?
We can use the money in the vein that it's being proposed. It will provide additional officers in a walking capacity that will allow those officers to, again, reconnect in the community. That's a major piece of this. It's about building relationships in the community and building a level of trust. I don't look at our city in terms of a Ferguson, but again, we're not perfect. We have issues that can be worked out, and this gives us another opportunity to get out into the community while officers are walking on a slower pace, to engage and become more familiar with each other, and that it allows you to build a level of trust where you can communicate and share some issues that are going on in the community.
Okay, so we're going to have more community policing, or we're going to have more police. Like I said again, when I was coming up, we knew what police were,
Yes.
and it made a difference.
Well, in terms of community policing, again, it's an overall philosophy throughout the entire police department.
Right.
So we encourage, from my level all the way down, that we get out in the community and we engage and we talk. This is a pinpointed, specific effort to make sure we have officers that will have time to do that on this overtime basis, and we'll make sure that that happens.
Okay. Now the governor has his Delaware Crime Commission. The mayor has his advisory panel of public safety. Okay. How will this help the community? And what happened to me? Nobody called me. I'm pissed off. I mean, I could have been on. Mayor Williams, I know you. Governor Merkel, I know you. Now, seriously though. But talk about the commission and the panel, and again, and I hope this young fella right here can be a part and reconsider to add this young fella on. Okay, not yet. Not yet. We'll let you know when. Okay. I'll give a signal. So talk about the commission.
Yeah, I know a little bit more about the governor's commission, and that has and actually it's not just the governor. It was a product of a bill that was passed by the General Assembly, and I think the idea there, and the chief is serving on it, so he could probably speak to it even more knowledgeably than I can. That's a fairly short-term commission. I think its report is due at the end of March,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the idea there is to provide some input for the city of Wilmington as to essentially how it could provide better law enforcement services to the city. And I think every organization probably benefits from something like that. Attorney General's offices around the country, they have people come in from time to time and do audits and tell them how they could provide better law enforcement services from their end. So I think that this is a focused, very short term, but potentially very helpful effort to try to give some advice from some national experts and from this local panel to the city as to how it could provide better service, and the chief is part of it.
Okay.
Yes, like I said, I'm serving on this committee, and it's an effort to take a look at best practices around the country and look at individuals who have been in law enforcement for a number of years, who serve on these different consultant groups who are looking at our police department. We're currently engaged with them. They're getting certain information from our department that we're providing to the commission and to the consultants. Serving on this panel, again, we're holding, I think it's 5 meetings. We had our first meeting last week, meeting coming up this week, and they're all public for individuals to come in and ask certain questions or questions that concern them in reference to what's going on in the city. So again, that report will be done by the end of March. And in terms of the mayor's police advisory council, again, that's another way we can engage with the community to find out what are their concerns and issues. And it's individuals from all levels of the community, from the clergy to the business owners to residents who live in the city who have been invited to sit on this commission. They're not there to tell us how we're going to run the police department, our policies and procedures, and it's not a review of the police department. it's, again, to engage the community, to find out what are the issues, how can we do things better, how can we better engage.
I'm glad you made that clear, because some people look for just to come and attack, attack. What do you think about these commissions?
Yeah, I don't know very much about them. I did have an opportunity to sit in on the one last, I think it's the governor's commission, the one that they have. So I believe that it's always a good thing when you have community involved and whatever's taking place in the community. So, I did see some community members on there. I think that's a good thing. I would just hope that whatever comes out of it is definitely not any of the high pressure type of operations which result in quota systems being put in place where you're putting a lot of pressure and tension on communities. I get that there are hot spots in places that need more focus or more attention, but I would hope that it would not come out with any of these high pressure type of tactics where you're really swarming down on neighborhoods and causing more of a stressful and discomforting environment for the people that live there. Because it's all, we always have to be mindful that there's a small percentage of people that are committing crimes, and the majority of people are out here working and doing hard work and taking care of their families. So.
Okay. One thing, we're going to go to a commercial break, then we're going to take the phone calls. But one thing I would like to see, I know when I was growing up, and I would like to see the Muslims get more involved. And I'm going to give you a good example. When I was growing up, they had issues on Concord Avenue. And the Muslims, and a lot of people felt hostage, couldn't play, the kids couldn't come out. They got involved and helped, and they cleaned Concord Avenue up. And I would like to see them at the table, because I think it's going to take everybody to fix this. And I would like to see them at the table with their views, because I seen their work. And the seniors and these kids, this shouldn't be happening. These babies and these kids are dying. And that's why I said we got to put our differences aside, because this is bigger than all of us. And I'm glad to see Attorney General. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see all the legislators who I think are doing excellent work. And you have Senator Marshall with the low wage task force and trying to get things done. And Senator Margaret Rose, I always said that she's undervalued. She does a lot more than she gets credit for. She's a serious resource, and she gets a lot of stuff done. You have Charles Potter. You got a lot of Senator McDowell, and we had a conversation with him about Del Tech. The president is now doing something that Senator McDowell issued 20 years ago. So he was way ahead of the game, So we got the talent, we got people here, and we got the talent here. But we all have to come together to save everybody. We're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and take phone calls. All right, we're back again. I think we're having good conversation, and we're trying to come up with some answers and try to get this thing straight. And I believe we're going to win this. We're going to win this battle, and that means everybody. The number is 425-5272. My mom said I always talk too fast, so I'll slow up. 425-5272. You can call in with your questions. 425-5272. So, again, also, I got a young man who's on the chairman of the board at the Port of Wilmington. For a minute, we're gonna go into politics. He's a Republican. I asked Alan Levin. I've been hearing his name a lot for the governor for the Republican side. Alan Levin. Man who used to own Happy Harry. So people have been talking about him as a governor, running for governor on the Republican side. So you tell him you heard it first from me. Hello, you on the air?
Yeah, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to this. You had Yasser Payne on a couple weeks ago, and you've had a lot of people that keeps talking about jobs. I'm sitting there listening to the chief of police, Matt Denn, and you know what? $36 million. That's a lot of money, man. And all I hear y'all talking about is police this, police that. You just keep directing the money towards law enforcement. Law enforcement is not the problem. Jobs is the problem. Why don't you give when they had the money that went to the University of Delaware, all of this money, we're talking about millions of dollars. and these kids can't work. You sat there, Mr. Den, with a smile on your
Okay, that's a question about where's the jobs. Thank you.
Well, Julius,
Okay.
can I answer his
Yeah,
question?
sure, go
I
ahead.
think it's about where the money is being proposed to be spent. And he may not have been listening
Go ahead.
when I was talking about it, but about $5 million of it is going, if our proposal is carried out, directly to high poverty elementary schools. $3 million of it would go to reentry programs. $3 million of it would go to substance abuse treatment. $3 million of it would go to after school and summer programs for kids. $10 million of it would go to affordable housing, low-income rental and purchase housing. $6 million out of the $36 million would go into a fund that, among other things, could be used for law enforcement activities. So the overwhelming bulk of the money is not directed at law enforcement.
I'm glad you answered that. Hello, you on the air?
Yes, I'm calling in reference to the program that is currently showing with Jack Markell and the sergeant.
Okay, what's the question,
Thanks,
sir?
Jack Markell.
My question is, do they have a program that would allow for the residents who live in these areas that we call hotspots or zones? Do they have a program that would employ the residents in those areas that will bring back the community trust for those who live in those particular areas?
Okay, good question. Let him answer the question. Good question. He'll answer it. Okay, go ahead.
About $6 million out of the $36 million, if he's asking about this proposal that we have, $6 million of it would go into what's called a neighborhood building blocks fund. That $400,000 for overtime officers is coming out of that neighborhood building blocks fund. We think that some of the money for surveillance cameras should also come out of it. But that fund is available to all kinds of different organizations that want to do things to build up neighborhoods. We're hoping actually that there are some proposals from community organizations that want to do things that are local, because I happen to believe that some of the people who know their communities best and can best help them are people who are living in those communities. So the answer is yes. We're hoping that there will be some resources available to community organizations.
Okay, you on the air?
Hello. Hi, Julius.
How you doing?
I'd like to talk about what Mr. Coley was talking about, the wraparound services. And I think we need more wraparound services for these guys. Go down Smyrna, Gander Hill, and Sussex and talk to these guys. When they come out, they have someone they know they're going to talk to that's going to steer them in the right direction. What happened to all that? You have a lot of people that's getting a whole lot of money for these programs. We have seen no statistics. No one really knows about the program. So it's like we're throwing away money, and our people are suffering from that.
Okay, good point. And
Thank you.
And I'll let Mr. Coley answer that one.
Yeah, I think that, what she was making reference to is, amongst released offenders, let me say that, and amongst people in the professional, because again, I work in the human services field, there's a lot of questions about what the reentry programs that are out there are really doing and how effective are they being with people that's coming out. I meet people every day, and every day when I see somebody coming out of prison, they're always asking me where the jobs are, where they're hiring at. And I think that there are a lot of people that are really questioning what's the effectiveness of the reentry programs that are out there right now,
This is
particularly in Wilmington.
This is Mike. Go ahead, you on the air?
Hey, this is Councilman Brown. I just wanted to make a comment to the Attorney General and to the Chief of Police. I just want to say to the Attorney General, I really appreciate you pushing that effort to get that money, those funds sent. Some people look at it as being a Band-Aid, but I look at it as the first step of trying to make some communities safer than what they already are. And I appreciate you. As an elected official, you're one of the very few that has stepped up and you came in running in that position. You came in with both feet on the ground and moving fast. And I salute you, because you met me the day after Christmas and talked to me about 2.5 hours about over coffee what you wanted to do with this program. So I appreciate you, Attorney General, and you have my full support as the public safety chair for the City of Wilmington City Council. And Chief, you continue to do what you're doing. I know that it has been a strain on you and your men and women of the Wilmington Police Department, but you are doing the best that you can do. And I just want people to know that, all the crimes are going down. All the crimes are going down those numbers of car thefts and all that other things, and you're fighting to put the crime. You're doing the right thing to make the crimes for guns go and shootings going down. And then lastly, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Irresponsible people use guns to do such things as kill people. So to the both of you, continue to do what you do best, and to the gentleman sitting next to you, Chief, sir, I want you to continue to fight that fight and be the voice for and be active in the community. We need young folks like you to share good ideas and do positive things in the community. And I did know you're great. I know your Uncle Joe White. He was a great man. And you continue to fight that fight as well. God bless you both. God bless all of you.
All right, thank you. And again, I want to say to the Attorney General he just got in office. He just outlined where he's trying to direct the money to. And again, we have to give him a chance. And I think, and I tell everybody, elections don't start until after they win. Not before, after they win. And I know Attorney General Matt, and I know he'll get the job done. I know everybody up here is going to get the job done. And I'm just glad everybody's working together. And that's a first. Hello, you on the air?
Yeah, I'd like to say good evening to everybody. And I'd like to congratulate Attorney General, the captain, for being up on the stage together. You know, it's like it's the beginning of a nice relationship with the community. I'm hoping that everybody take the chance and do this thing right, so we can all get it right the first time instead of having to go back to the table and get it right the second time. The money's not an issue. The community, you need the resources to come back to the community. So at the same time, I just want everybody to continue to do the same thing. Good things happening for the city. Hey, I love to be with Tony.
All right, thank you.
Nice night.
Thank you. And one thing that I would hope too, that we can get more funding for summer youth. I was a big opponent for summer youth, and one of the things that saved my life, besides Henry Bird, and I had a good big brother, Ronald Cephas, but we had recreation centers. We had the Brown Boys Club. We had George Gray. You know, I see Senator Marshall trying to open up Jackson Street Boys Club. I think we need more centers, and we need more things like that too. And like I said, jobs too, but we need other things for the younger people. Let me just say this to anybody who's calling. If your number is blocked, you will not talk to nobody if your number is blocked. So if your number is blocked, you might as well just hang up now because you're wasting your time. But again, I'm glad to see, I wanted to see everybody, the city, the county, everybody got to come together and fix this problem. I know when they had the heroin, everybody came together and they fixed that problem. And Attorney General, I'm glad to see you here. And like I said, Chief, you know how I feel about you.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I'm surprised Barack Obama ain't took you away from us yet. But, you know, Coley, what do you think about fatherhood, and how can the fatherhood help this crime problem?
Yeah, so fatherhood is definitely this is definitely a big piece to this equation. As I shared with you, I was out of my son's life for 14 years. I was incarcerated when he was 2 years old. I came home, he was 16 years old. And during that time period, he definitely had an opportunity to go, astray,
right,
if he didn't have the support of his grandparents and his family.
Okay, wait, let me take this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hello, you on the air?
Hello, Julius. How you doing?
Okay.
This is Rick Williams.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
How you doing? It's a sad thing to see our Attorney General.
Wait, I can't. I think his phone dropped. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I was going to say, fatherhood is definitely a big piece. Making sure to guide, the father plays the strongest role in guiding a young man or a young woman in making the right decisions and being able to be a productive member of society. My son and I I've been fortunate enough to do a production with my son. It's a dramatization of our life experience and the journey that we went through, called Out of the Ashes. And tomorrow we're flying out to LA to do it do the presentation for the National Fatherhood and Family Coalition in LA. So, and that's been an awesome experience, just reconnecting with my son and bonding. and establishing our relationship. And I just learned more from my son.
Are you on the air?
Going through this process.
Yes.
So.
I hear everything that you're saying about, the jobs that you're bringing to the city. I hear you about everything that you're bringing into the communities, more police and everything. But what I want to know is what you're doing about healing the community, because the amount of death that has come about in the community is all grieving. And what are we doing about healing the community? I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
That's excellent, young lady. Excellent.
Well, in terms of the police department, we do have a victim service office that individuals who have suffered grief can contact. But anytime there's something, someone in the community has any issues that they need to talk to the police, again, my door is always open. I'm always available to talk and try to direct people to resources that can help them out that are beyond a law enforcement component.
Now, I can say this. My good friend, Reverend Ty, CTAC, and other faith-based groups have their doors open. And they've been having a lot of prayer meetings. I think Reverend Ty had something at Bishop Weeks Church. I heard they had over 200 people. So, see your faith base, or see whatever your higher power is. But I agree with you. There needs to be something done to heal. Hello?
I would like to know, address the question about the illegal pills that the doctors are giving. I would like what's going to be did about the illegal pills that the doctors are giving these young people.
Okay, good point. Okay, thank you. And I'm not going to answer that because I know Attorney, you was talking about what are you trying to do for substance abuse? Can you talk about
your caller is raising a good issue, which is that we have in Delaware, a couple years ago, we were #1 in the country in terms of the number of prescription, legal painkiller prescriptions for OxyContin and other types of drugs that can lead people into heroin addictions that were being prescribed in the country. We took some steps and we're down to #2 in the country, but that's still not where we need to be. So one thing that we need to take a closer look at is what can we do to try to get under control the amount of these prescription drugs that are being prescribed that are leading people, when their prescription runs out, into heroin addictions. I went to a lady's house about a month and a half ago whose daughter was in a car accident, got rear-ended, got put on pain medication, got off the pain medication, started buying heroin, which is very cheap now, and overdosed and died on the floor of her mom's bathroom. And we have somebody dying of an overdose every other day in Delaware. And again, not every pain prescription is a bad one. Some people need those prescription drugs, but there's no reason why we should be prescribing them at a rate that is so much higher than the rest of the country. So we took some steps in the right direction, but I think that is a very important area that we have to look at, because those drugs can be a gateway into becoming addicted to illegal drugs.
Chief.
And I'll just say that there are joint investigations that are occurring on state, local, and federal level, looking at the doctors that are prescribing these type drugs.
Okay. What do you, again, the community talks to you and you have an insight that a lot of us don't have. What do you think about that?
As far as the prescription pills?
Yes.
It's
the drug addiction period.
It's rampant. Like Attorney General Denn said, a lot of people might start off taking pills, pain pills, legally prescribed, and then they transition over into the heroin because it's cheaper. And that brings on a whole different, that involves the criminal justice system, that involves no type of monitoring as far as from a physician or anything. So when you cross over to that area, it's really, it's kind of like a no man's land. You can end up in a very bad situation.
Okay, again, we have a few minutes. I'm gonna take one more call, but somebody keep putting these private numbers up there. And like I said again, you might as well stop wasting your time. I think this has been a good start. And like I said, Attorney General, I know what type of, you get on something, you on top of it. And I'm glad to see that all the agencies are working together, from the governor's office, from the United States Senator's office down. And that's what I'm most proud of, because that's the only way we're gonna get this problem fixed. Nobody can say, well, Mayor, it's your problem. No, this is everybody's problem, because when I look at my check, I see federal, state, county taxes taken out. So it's everybody's problem. I like to give everybody, I guess 50 seconds. I'm gonna come up this way, starting with you.
Well, I just want to say, again, make sure that, I would just like to make sure that we focus our attention on building up and strengthening our young people, make sure we're addressing their core needs, needs of poverty, and in any type, to Attorney General and to you as well, Chief, any type of steps that you take towards dealing with young people in crime, make sure that we are not putting them in a position to fail and to permanently disenfranchise them, to make sure they have an opportunity going forward, even if they make a mistake at a young age. So.
I'd just like to echo some of Coley's thoughts that when we do this, we have to involve the youth and young adults in this conversation. That's, over the years, a big part that we've been missing, that we have not brought them into these conversations, and they need to be brought to the table.
I just want to go back to something that you said, Julius. The level, I've only been on the job something like 40 days, but the level of collaboration that we have had from the city police department, and in particular from Chief Cummings, who has been any place we've asked him to come with us to try to get more resources to deal with this problem, he's been there. You mentioned the federal government, and the federal government is involved at a very, very high level. That's not always visible in the newspaper every day, but they're working hard as well. So it's been great to see how everyone really is coming together to try to deal with the problem.
Okay. Again, I want to say thank you to my panel. And again, this is just the start. I'll be back again on next week. And I'll be back on next week. I want to thank all of y'all. Also, I'd like to just give a shout out to Sean Allen with the Cure of Violence. And he needs more resources. And I believe we can start fixing this problem. Thank you. I'll see you back next week. Thank everybody.